This video is about one of my best friends and a journalism brother, Terry Anderson, who passed away this week due to complications from recent heart surgery. He was 76. This video also features interviews that I conducted with Terry almost 25 years ago. A 1974 graduate of the Greenlee School at Iowa State University and former reporter for the Iowa State Daily, Terry was awarded Iowa State's highest honor for service to journalism, the Schwartz Award, in 1987. Terry also was our featured speaker at Iowa State's First Amendment Day. He's pictured over here with Thomas Sutherland, another hostage and Iowa State alum. I, like the rest of the world, learned about what happened to Terry when he was kidnapped by Shiite Muslims in Lebanon in 1984. He remained a hostage for 2,454 days, almost 7 years, suffering all manner of torture, mentally and physically. Upon his release at a press conference, Terry disclosed that he wrote poetry. He composed verse in his head, memorizing lines so that one day when released, he could quickly write them down. I too wrote poetry about being a journalist, and I got in touch with Terry, sending him a copy of Hove about my UPI mentors, Leon Daniel and Kate Webb. I asked Terry if I could publish his poems in my forthcoming book, The Art and Craft of Poetry. He said yes, and a friendship soon developed. At the time I was teaching at the Scripps School of Journalism at Ohio University, Terry contacted me about any teaching openings in journalism. I said, "Come to Ohio University," and he did. Our friendship grew fonder from then on, and we really did consider ourselves family. When 9/11 attack happened in 2001, I immediately thought about Terry and the flashbacks he was probably suffering. I have never shared this with anyone before. I left the Scripps building, went to the local florist, and bought him 24 yellow roses. I drove to his ranch in Athens, knocked on the door, only to see Terry with a shocked look, perhaps having a flashback. We hugged, and he took the flowers. We bonded in our friendship again. In these videos, Terry talks about being a journalist, a hostage, and our friendship. Enjoy.
For me to reconcile myself to the idea that I was writing poetry, because I'm not a poet. I'm a very practical, pragmatic, action man journalist, right? I go around and watch people kill each other. That's what I do. And we didn't have much of a chance to write while we were in prison. They didn't permit us to have pencils or pens much of the time. Most of the time, actually, right up until the end. I mean, we stole a couple here and there. We used to write notes to each other, and I kept a diary for a long time. But eventually had to get rid of that because it was too dangerous. I didn't actually write any of my own poetry until my last month in prison. It was all memorized. It was never written down until Terry Waite and Tom Sutherland went home. They were the ones who preceded me. They went home 2 weeks, a little over 2 weeks before I did. And when they left, the guards told me I could send a letter with them, a letter to my family. And I did that. I wrote a very quick letter because there was not much time between the time they came in and said, "Okay, you're leaving, and yes, you can send a letter," and the time they came to take him away. So I wrote a quick letter to my family saying, they're telling me we're going to be together very soon. I'm going to be leaving also very quickly. Meanwhile, here are some of the poems I've been writing. Because I had all these poems in my head. I had 30-some poems that I had written, and I couldn't write them down. They were all in my head. So I'd recite them to myself every morning when I woke up, just so I wouldn't forget them, and which was my great fear. And so I wrote my quick letter, and then I wrote down, I think it was 16 or 17 of the poems, and gave them to Tommy and said, "Here, please give these to my family." Because, while they said I was going home, you never knew. It's been 7 years. I wrote about journalism, which was unusual to me because I had never seen poetry about journalism. It's not a subject that you see very many poems about. And that is what brought me to Michael Bajeha and also to Ohio University in a strange way. I wrote several poems about journalism, and Michael saw them in the book, and he wrote me one day when I was in New York, and he asked permission to reproduce them in his book about the writing and making of poetry. And we started corresponding, and he seemed like a very nice man. And among the things that he sent me in his letters was his poem about poetry, Ho, which was a delightful thing, in an entirely different style, a different idea than what I was writing about, but a delightful and strongly felt and powerful poem. So we kind of became friends. When I decided, I was teaching at Columbia Graduate School of Journalism. I started out part-time and it became full-time. When I decided that, yeah, I like this is what I wanted to do. I also decided pretty quickly after that New York was not the only place I could do it in. If you're going to teach journalism, there are lots of places to do that. Some of them better places to live than New York. And first person I called was Michael. I said, Michael, I think I want to leave New York. I still want to teach. What do you suggest? You got any ideas? And he said, well, my first idea is come out here.